Hey, how's it going, everybody? Thanks for checking out Exhaust State Comics. What we're doing today, it's some fun stuff. We're going to go back over an interview that I was a part of with Rob Liefeld, creator of Deadpool, about 2 years ago. So when Deadpool #1 was about to come out on DVD and Blu-ray and everything else digitally, myself and the editor-in-chief of Comic Book, Aaron, sat down and had a great interview with Rob Liefeld, where pretty much he just takes the reins, but you get some awesome
info about the creative process of Deadpool, things that were going on at Marvel back then, like just all this great stuff that he just kind of like just tells you all these great stories. So it's a lot of fun stuff, and whether you're a big fan of Rob Liefeld or not, the man's enthusiasm for Deadpool, for his creations, for the comic book industry as a whole, is pretty infectious. So it's worth a listen. If you haven't heard him talk about this stuff before, it's actually a lot of fun. So hope you enjoy. Figured I would port this one over here from the Comic Book YouTube channel just so everybody could check it out as we get ready for Deadpool 2, which is opening this weekend. So thanks everybody for checking this out, and I really appreciate it. Make sure you watch, and then we'll be back later with some more stuff wherever I may be found on the internets. Have a good one. Thanks. Here comes the interview. Boom.
Hey everybody, welcome to Two Comic Book Dudes. I'm Aaron Clutter, editor-in-chief of Comic Booked.
Hey everybody, Justin, managing editor over at Comic Booked.
And today we have a very special guest with us. Mr. Rob Liefeld is joining us.
Hey guys.
Hey Rob, thank you for taking the time to talk with us about Deadpool. We know the digital release was yesterday, April 26th, and the movie comes out on DVD and Blu-ray on the 10th of May. I'm really looking forward to that.
Oh, me too. I watched it 3 times yesterday in digital HD on my big old flat screen. I'm like, it's in my house now. I can watch it any time of the day.
Nice.
And I am.
That's awesome. Yeah, I loved it. We went to the theater and saw it, and I loved it. It was just amazing. So,
you know what? You know what's amazing is that in the theater I saw it 13 times, and I loved it each time. Now 8 of those were semi-obligations, and then the other 5 were just literally my wife and I were like, "You want to see it again?" Because it's so much fun. But the first 8 times, like there were Fox fan events. Now, the day that I recorded my commentary with Tim Miller, we saw it 3 times in one day, and that's when I knew, like, this movie is awesome. I just watched it 3 times and had to talk through it 2 of those times. But and then we went to our fan event and showed it at the IMAX, and I'm like, okay, I just saw it 3 times in a day. I'm not sure I ever saw any movie I ever loved that many times in a theater, like sitting in a seat and on a big screen. So, you know, and again, hats off to all those guys. I'm not taking credit for their accomplishment. It's their brilliance that they. I mean, what an achievement.
Yeah. Yeah. So along those lines, we wanted to kind of go back to like when you first heard that there was going to be a Deadpool movie.
Yeah.
What were your first impressions there? What did you feel about, you know, what did you want the movie to be? What did you hope for it to be? Just what were your thoughts about that?
Oh, yeah, no, sure. Well, first, I was in my 30s. So, yeah, that was a decade ago when they were teasing about spinning off Deadpool into his own film. And then shortly thereafter, there was talk of Ryan's involvement. Then suddenly Ryan, you know, if we're looking at 2007, 2008, when Ryan was cast for Origins, and then they filmed it in 2008, then it's released in 2009, then it's firmed up he's going to be in his own movie. So, no, I mean, it's funny, when you ask me about that, I'm like, oh, yeah, that was a decade ago. No, look, it's always, bottom line, the question was always, and given that comic movies were becoming respectable during that time, you know, it was just always like, what will this look and feel like? Can they pull this off? Will they allow it to be as violent and turns out as vulgar as the character can be? And I mean, honestly, the great thing is, you know, they walked that vulgar line, I think, as close as you can get, You know, in regards to how much you can get away with an R-rated film, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like they did not hold back, which is great. But anyway, you know, first of all, the first thing you ever do when you question or when you realize they're going to make a movie of something, no matter what character, you know, you question, well, are they going to pull off the look, the costume? You know, and as the 1,000% author of that costume, one of the things I was looking at and just blown away by again on the umpteenth viewing, I love at the end when, you know, he's kneeling over Francis, and Francis says, "What's my name?" And at this point, he doesn't care. And when he says, and when Deadpool cocks the gun, the pistol, and puts it in his face, and says, "Who effing cares?" You know?
Yeah.
When he's right about to blast him, and at that point, if you go back and look, Ryan kind of sucks in on the mask, and so the material presses up, and his mouth is open. It's more frightening and a little more intimidating. It's more, you know, a little more horrific. And the thing about Deadpool was, especially with the mask, I mean, and the brilliance of what Ryan does and the entire team is that it communicates emotion through a full facial mask.
Right.
Which, you know, now we're seeing in Civil War with Spider-Man's eyes blinking, which didn't used to happen. But the fact that I mean, dude, I'm going to tell you, when Tim showed me when Tim Miller showed me the visuals, you know, a couple years back, all the visual representation of the Blur Studios has done, the pre-viz work, the art department stuff. I mean, I was like, oh my gosh, I was so blown away. It was so faithful. But then to see it in leather and, you know, come on, pouches.
Yeah.
Pouches. Look, you know, you always, look, people who know me, I'm a glass half full guy. I'm a relentless positive thinker. So I always wish for the best. It exceeded that, you know, by a long shot. And I'll be honest, there was a period where, you know, and Tim Miller has addressed this as well, for whatever reason, Deadpool, the editorial over the years at Marvel has not made giving him an arch nemesis a priority. If you look through, and part of the thing that I would go through and talk to Fox about is, you know, because as the resident comic book expert, well, you can't use that guy. You can't use that guy. You don't own him. Right. You know, they would go down through the list and go, which of these books? There's actually a run of Deadpool. I just put a red marker through all of it. I said, you don't have access to any of these characters. These aren't Deadpool characters. They're Marvel characters. So the fact that they took Ajax and made him and gave him that, you know, wonderful nemesis, you know, level with Deadpool in the film is, again, another achievement to Rhett and Paul and Tim and Ryan, because that unfortunately, Deadpool's Rogues Gallery, you might not want to put an S on it. It may just be Deadpool's Rogue Gallery, otherwise known as Friends of Everyone Else in Marvel.
Right.
That we don't own. So, look, they did a great job. They did a really great job getting Ajax, and then look, they pulled rabbits out of their hat with Tim, and really, it was funny. Tim called me up when he wanted to let me know that they weren't using Kane anymore, who obviously was a functioning one of the few functioning nemesis of Deadpool, and he was in all the drafts of the screenplay, but the last one, because of the budget, he was you know, with the transforming bionic arms, too much money, and Tim had actually said, look, this script as it stands right now is a sausage fest. Let's get more girls in this movie. Those are his words. And by putting Angel Dust and Negasonic in the movie, I mean, they bring so much to the film. And again, being behind the scenes, and I said to Tim, Tim, dude, I'm good with it when he called me about Kane. And he's like, I'm shocked He goes, I think you're crying right now, and I can feel your tears. I can feel your tears through the streams of the internet, Rob. And I said, no, Tim, if the movie's called Kane, let me know. Last time I checked, the movie's called Deadpool. And as long as Deadpool's in the movie, we're good to go, buddy. But I did think that, you know, again, bringing, in terms of nemesis and or relationships, you know, and it's funny, people go, oh, what book does Deadpool fight Angel Dust in? Yeah, she doesn't. He doesn't. What book does Deadpool, you know, team up with Colossus and Negasonic? Yeah, that doesn't exist. You're not finding that in the back issue bins. That's why the movie is so awesome. Yeah, the movie is unique in and of itself, and it really, kudos to all those guys, because, again, that old adage, if it's not on the page, it's not on the screen, and all the stuff that they brought that makes the movie so rich is exciting. So, to answer your question, hope for the best. Hope they pulled the visuals off. And look, you know, another thing, Tim, before we went in to see it, I saw the final cut. What they were going to release, I saw it in December. And Tim said, Rob, I wish we had done more with the swords. And so, like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, man, they didn't have Deadpool use the swords. That sucks. And then 10 minutes in, he kebabs that guy. Right. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe we won't see the swords again. And then when he turns to Negasonic and Colossus and goes, when they're like, where's your bag? He's like, I forgot it again. He's like, swords it is. And he's slicing and dicing, dude. And I said, Tim, at the end, I go, there was tons of sword play.
Yeah.
And that mattered so much to me. What were you saying that, you know, there weren't more swords? He's like, I wish we would have had more. And I'm like, okay, I like you. You know, but I'm like, okay, he's not going to use swords. I'm like, he's slicing and dicing dudes' heads off. He cuts the guy's heads off and drop kicks that head, as you know.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, so Tim, that was a little premature. But he's so great. He's just that's why Deadpool 2 is in such great shape. They brought the team back, you know?
Yep.
So,
and I know we're not allowed to talk about it. We're not allowed to ask questions about it, so...
We are not allowed to talk about it at all!
Yep, that's what I was told. I was warned.
Yeah, no, I would be killed. I would be... Somebody asked me earlier, and I'm like, yeah, I have to plead the fifth.
Nope. Yeah,
so
that's fine.
We'll just be really excited to see it when it happens. We'll wait. Yeah. Really happy then.
Yep.
Oh, me too. Look, bottom line is the team is back together, and you know, kudos to Fox for keeping everybody together. As you know, success can, you know, rocket people into different stratospheres, and it all comes down to management. And management did whatever they did to bring everybody back together, and so kudos to them. And so happy to have them all back, because I was on the internet, you know, singing the praises of that script the minute it came through back in like 2010, and then I think it leaked, and you know, that's the brilliance. I mean, Rhett and Paul set the table with that screenplay, and then Tim delivered the goods on the directorial end. And then honestly, like I said, the more I watch, when you watch something repeated times, you focus in on different aspects each time. And I am so blown away. I don't believe Ryan, and I love all his movies. I've seen them all. He has never been better than he is in this movie. And I mean, he doesn't, I need to give him even more credit than I do, and I feel like I give him a ton. It's just, the guy just puts it all out there in this film. I mean, it's so good. So, it's so great. I'm so excited for the future.
Yeah.
Which we can't talk about.
No, great. So let's instead talk about the past, if that's okay. About Deadpool, and you created so many characters back in the 90s with the Image and with Marvel. So, with Deadpool, what was... I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch of things, but what sticks in your mind as the inspiration for creating Deadpool the way you did?
Buddy, I've told this a million times. I can tell it again. The great thing is the story never changes because the truth doesn't change. Only the lies change. And I mean, I you know, now I'll say, hey, go listen to the, what's the name of the show? Tell me.
Oh,
what are we doing here?
It's Two Comic Book Dudes.
I'll be like, go listen to Two Comic Book Dudes, because they can tell you there. Because normally I say, hey, kids, go go look on YouTube. I'm sure I've told this story. Here's the bottom line. You take a little Spider-Man, a little Boba Fett, and a whole lot of me loving on Wolverine, and the need to follow up the success of Cable, and you come up with Deadpool. And the bottom line is, I mean, there's so many fun aspects. Look, I was doing a team book. For those who don't know, the New Mutants was a dog. They were going to cancel it. They said I had a chance to save it. I said, great, I'll save it. I felt I knew what was wrong with the New Mutants and why it was lagging behind all of the other X-Men books. And trust me when I tell you it was lagging behind significantly, and that's historical. You can go back and look at the rankings that the book was lagging so far behind the other 3 X-Men books that were out at the time. And they started by letting me introduce a really transformative character named Cable, who brought a distinct action tone to the book and more of a consequence to the book. Long story short, his year in that book, which there was not a panel that he was involved in that I did not have a heavy hand in crafting, and that was part of the sale to get me on it. But that book, we quadrupled our sales. We suddenly were selling neck and neck with the X-Men. So they rewarded me, saying, Rob, we're going to give you can write and draw the book. You've earned your place. And so Louise Simonson, her last issue was 97. When it says plot and story, that means that the guy whose name says plot and story is the guy dictating to you the details, the soap opera. I was also a huge soap opera fan. So here's the deal. Cable needed a nemesis by this time. We'd had him tangle with Wolverine, and there was a great mystery with the character Strife, who was our big bad in the book, but we needed to hold off on that. But for my first first up at bat, in the big box, being because there's a lot of pressure. You go, man, they're giving me everything I want now. I decided New Mutants 98 we would introduce 3 new characters, and 2 of them, Deadpool and Domino, have gone on to great fan favorite status, popular. And what I say about Gideon is 2 out of 3 ain't bad. And the thing with Deadpool is when a character walks in and takes down your whole team, a team that you've spent the entire year establishing, that says something to the reader that says, wow, that guy's a badass. And so, for me, that character had to be Deadpool. He'd been waiting in the wings of my sketchbook. I had the name. I had that he was a mercenary. What I called up Marvel and said, hey, look, because I was completely, to this day, Wolverine is my favorite character. That will absolutely never be undone. I bought Wolverine's first appearance as a kid. I watched as he joined the X-Men. I watched as they unfurled all his mystery. And that's the thing about Wolverine, he's a man of mystery. And so Cable was also a man of mystery. So now we introduced this mysterious Deadpool. Well, before I even saw print, I said, look, I want him to be part of the Weapon X program. The Department K, what had created Wolverine. I want him to be a candidate, and he came before Wolverine, and they messed him up, they screwed him up. I've told this again, I've told this several times as well. In the movie Twins, which to your listeners, Twins was a movie that starred 2 guys who used to be movie stars, called Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito. And the entire sales of the movie was their twins. And if you don't know, Danny DeVito is 4'10", and Arnold is 6'4", or 6'2", whatever. And obviously very muscular, and Danny is kind of not. And the thing is, the whole conceit was that they're twins. Okay, so in the third act of the movie, they finally meet the scientist that's behind both of their genetic manipulation, their creation, and says, well, how are we twins? And the guy goes, you're all the good stuff. And he points to Schwarzenegger and says, you're the refined, you're the good stuff. And you, points to DeVito, you're the crap. And Danny goes, I'm the crap. And I go, you're the crap. And at that point I said, Wolverine is the good stuff and Deadpool was the crap. And again, because it's like, wait, okay, so Wolverine submitted himself, and he still looks good to me. He doesn't have a whole lot of scars because he heals, blah, blah, blah. So I said, well, maybe everybody else in Weapon 1 through 9, because Wolverine is Weapon 10, maybe everyone else didn't come out so hot. So that's where you get the disfigured face, and the bottom line was Deadpool came out with his healing factor came out with a mutation, but left the program because it had also driven him a little nuts. And he realized, I can use what they did to me for money. So once Marvel, and look, dude, you understand, when you submit something to management, I mean, they have to clear it. Right. And once they clear it, Rob, you can tie it into Wolverine. I'm like, we're off to the races. But here's the other rub, the final rub. People understand. I had my grim and gritty soldier. That was Cable. Mm-hmm. We didn't need another one of him. And so the idea when I, when it's all my original notes and everything that I submitted to Marvel was, and here's the final part of this long answer. He has a full face mask. He always did in all my sketches, but my two buddies, Eric Larson and Todd McFarlane, were kicking ass over on Spider-Man at the same point that Jim Lee and I were restoring the X Office to its previous acclaim. And because they were bringing new people in all the books. But you don't understand, and your listeners need to understand, how advantageous drawing a fully masked character is. And the design inherent of Spider-Man, because I had done an annual with him as well during that time, was the big giant eyes. It's an oval and big eyes. And if you see me draw Deadpool, I can draw that dude fast. And fast matters on a deadline. Fast matters. Ask people. An issue of Spider-Man is going to be easier to draw than an issue of the Fantastic Four or the Avengers. It's a single character, but also you get a full face mask, which means you're not figuring out how to line up the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the teeth, the hair, the stubble, the ears, blah, blah, blah. So
makes sense.
Deadpool was also born of necessity with a big middle finger towards the Spider-Man office, like, and when I pitched him, I said, dude, he's Spider-Man with guns and swords. Come on, can we do that?
Yeah.
And the Spider-Man of my youth was a jackass who would punch you in the face or kick you or tie you up with his webs and make fun of you. And also at that time, readers need to know, in 1991, Spider-Man had become morose under Todd McFarlane's direction, who he was chasing the spirit of Frank Miller's Dark Knight and Walt Simonson's Thor, especially in the villain with Doom. He would tell us, I'm going to do that thing that Surtur did in Thor, where it always was a drum was beating, and so he did that in the Craven Hunt. But Spider-Man became dark. He was a middle-aged man with marriage problems. Mary Jane was always out dancing, shaking her ass at the nightclub, and woe was me, does MJ even love me? He had totally become a middle-aged dude. So the idea that, look, let's make him a smartass. Let's make Deadpool a smartass. Smartass. I just said that 3 times. It's like it'll separate him. And look, the perfect guy to give him all the wit, because I had my choice of scripters. And if you don't think that people were lined up out the door, you're kidding yourself. Suddenly, like that guy, what's that awesome movie with Bill Murray and not Rockwell, the kid, he wrote a hit play.
Rushmore.
In Rushmore. Dude, I was that kid sitting at the table going, I wrote a hit play. New Mutants was a hit play now. And people wanted to jump on that bandwagon. And I knew a bunch of these young guys who were trying to, get into the X Office. And honestly, I got along with Fabian the best. And Fabian had a great way with words. And I had already told Marvel, I don't have time to do the dialogue. That's a different skill set. And I modeled that. By the way, that was also, cause I wear my influence on my sleeve. Justice League was a book that had come back where Keith Giffen told the stories and did the layouts, and J.M. DeMatteis wrote this great dialogue on top of it, and it was one of my favorite books. Yep. So, and I think and I believe he had done that with Lobo as well. Keith Giffen had done that. So I was like, Fabian, let's come on board. They cleared him. We teamed up. Next thing you know, New Mutants 98 hits. Everything that, he's a badass. He takes down the team. And there's one page where Deadpool is looming over Cable. And I tell you right now, it's so funny because it's the big 3/4 splash. And he says, Tolliver's called in his marks on you. And here's the deal. That's Boba Fett talking to Han Solo about Jabba the Hutt calling in the mark. I mean, like I said, I was a Star Wars. I saw Star Wars when I was 9 years old in 1977. It changed my world. Boba Fett changed my world. And again, a guy with a full mask mystery about him, bounty hunter, mercenary. So I just always laugh when I see that, because it's like Tolliver, the big gangster that had hired, Deadpool and was later behind the Domino Gambit with Vanessa.
Right.
Like, he was my Jabba the Hutt, and Cable, he had some dealings, and so that also implied right there that Cable and Deadpool knew each other. But the book hits. We sold about 750,000 of New Mutants 98, ridiculous number. Marvel said, Rob, we have not gotten mail on a character like this in 15 years. Can you put Deadpool in every book? And I was like, no, we don't have, but I said I can move the timeline up on his stories. And this is where I just say, the fans have always had Deadpool's back. The reason, okay, so X-Force #1 comes out, it's got $5 million in sales. The #2 best-selling comic book, still, 25 years later, still the #2 best-selling comic. I honestly thought that record would fall in the 90s. I am now pretty brazen. I'm not sure it'll ever fall. I think Jim and I are 1 and 2 cemented. And it's not like they didn't try, kids. Star Wars had 65 covers on it. Star Wars #1, 1 year ago. If it was going to fall, it was going to fall then. So X-Force #1, million sales, but there's a Deadpool trading card in it, and there's a Deadpool fact file, because we needed to have Deadpool. Fans wanted Deadpool. And there's a reason that the follow-up, Deadpool, is on the cover of X-Force #2, which sold 1.5 million copies. And yet, is X-Force really on the cover? Or is Deadpool on the cover? No, it's Deadpool, because and what's the first 12 pages of the book? Is that X-Force? No, kids, we fooled you. You bought a Deadpool comic. You didn't know you were getting one. And so, again, that's why Deadpool's in X-Force 3 and 4 and 5 and 7 and 10 and 11, because the fans loved him. And here's what I tell people. How does that make you feel? Like the success of Cable and Deadpool. And I said, to a freelance artist, there's 2 words. Job security. Job security. Yeah. That's how it makes you feel like they're going to keep letting me do this. So, again, that's why, ultimately I ended up creating over 30 characters in my time there. Is one, I recognized the opportunity to create characters in the X-Men universe, and was smart enough to take them up on that. And then 2, I mean, come on. If when somebody offers you a good deal, take it. And so I mean, it's just and they were working, they were connecting. Like I said, all these characters still have tremendous fan bases, and I think over the next decade, I think those fans are going to be rewarded handsomely with just because look at Deadpool. I mean, look, Deadpool the movie is the rising tide that's lifting all boats, especially in publishing. I think the Deadpool comics are better than ever. I think everybody has raised their game. When the Deadpool movie makes $760 million at the box office, that's a statement. That shows you what the character's capable of. And let's not kid ourselves. We didn't have the budget of, say, a Batman, Superman, or a Civil War. Tim had to make. I know Beyonce's singing about Lemonade, but I'm like, hey, she talking about the Deadpool movie? Because that's Lemonade. Come on, man. Ryan Reynolds is quoted as saying, it's my favorite quote that he gave on the press circuit. We had other movies' cocaine budgets. That's funny. But, he's really emphasizing a point there. I mean, Deadpool was not this lavishly extravaganza budgeted movie. I just made up the word extravaganza. But the thing is, so I just go, that's some lemonade right there. I mean, that and the amount of Deadpool merchandise. And, I mean, I'm at Michael's craft store with my daughter. She wants to buy paint and glue, and we're greeted by Deadpool posters. Three different bins. I'm like, really, Michael? This is how much we need to cover the overhead? We're selling Deadpool posters? Because that's a surefire. Sorry, I've gone crazy. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. Well,
that just shows that the characters crossed over to everybody. Even people at Michael's need Deadpool,
That's right.
That's right, buddy. That's right.
So, well, that's good. Really, the last question. Well, you've kind of answered some of our other questions in the route we've taken today, so that's good. Justin, you want to ask our last question?
Sure. I'm sure you've answered this 1,000 times, also, but it's like what we like to ask people. What growing up, getting into comics, things like that. What book or series did you first read and said, "Wait a minute, this is what I want to do"?
Okay, I believe, man, it's, I wish I had my Google. It's on my spinner rack at home, but I never forget. It's like players' numbers. I know players in sports that I like by their names. I never memorize their numbers. But it's an issue of Fantastic Four. I want to say it's like 140, no, maybe 147, 148, but it's got Namor, Submariner, however we pronounce his name. First out of the ocean, and Thing is standing on the rock. And up until that, I think that's 1974, 1973, something like that. And because I'm old, and I had been allowed, because my dad was a Baptist minister, he had let me, first, here, kid, read the Bible. It's super violent, and there's tons of sex and incest. But don't look at those violent comics. Right. Just read how David lusts after Bathsheba right here. But it was but in comics, you can only have Casper the Friendly Ghost and Richie Rich.
Oh, gosh.
So my barber saved me from the hell of those characters by having a stack of Marvel comics. And I was like, while he cut my hair, I would read Defenders and Fantastic Four, and I was like, wait a second, whoever this Prince Namor guy is, he just leveled the Fantastic Four and told them all off, and Sue left with him. Like, what the heck? He took Sue, she's like, yeah, I'm going with you, pointy-eared dude from down under the water. And I was like, and the art was awesome, very splashy and action-packed, and I just said, buddy, and he's like, Rob, I can see you really like that. How about you trade me, because I got to keep comics here for the kids to read. You bring me in whatever you got, and I'll deal you out Marvel comics. And to this day, I'm like, Fred the barber, rest in peace, Fred. You're long since gone from this planet, but what a cool dude. And I became the Marvel-aholic and started frequenting. It was awesome. Back in my day, in the mean streets of Anaheim, there was liquor stores all over the place, and every liquor store had the best stock of comic books. My husband was like, don't go to that liquor store. And I'd be like, you mean don't go back? Because I just came from there. So I'll hide these comics. I hid comics all over the house. And then finally they knew they couldn't break me. My parents, they knew I had fever. And they're like, well, I guess it's better than Playboys and Penthouses.
Right.
So yeah, come on, man. So I was a Marvel zombie early on. I love DC too. And I bought eventually. I bought everything, and especially in the '80s when independent comic book companies came out and direct market opened up, and there were stores opening up near me. I bought everything. But comics is my preferred medium. I literally called you guys after coming out of the comic store, and I didn't even want to look at the bill. I'm like, oh, why do I leave the house? If I go to the comic store, I'm coming out much lighter in the wallet, and I have to use cash so that the wife doesn't track the purchases. So it's all. See, I'm still hiding comics. Well, nothing's changed. I'm still hiding them. My kids, no, you can't have that. No, you can't have that. And then go, oh, but Dad bought all these. Sorry.
Right.
I guess I should just say, well, it's for work, kids. But they're like,
that's right.
Dad, you're not drawing issues of Batman. So anyway, guys, I hope these answers were suitable for your audience.
Yeah, they were great. Really, really appreciate you, talking about everything. Deadpool, a great movie. Really looking forward to the release of that. Love the history that you give us on the character and everything, and reviews all stuff.
And look, let me tell you something. Let me just finish by saying, Rob Liefeld, the baby daddy, I will tell you there is no better version of Deadpool than that movie. There is no better. And I know when I read it, it's grounded. He's not battling giant dinosaurs. He's not battling presidential zombies, which is like a little bit away from reality. The thing I love about the movie is it's grimy, it's gritty, yet it's also slick. The action is slick. when it needs to be slick, it's slick. But otherwise, the world of that, like Vanessa and Wade's apartment. I mean, I tell people, I created Wade and Vanessa, and I never did them this good. I would hug Paul and kiss Rhett all the time and go, this is so much better. This is so much better than anything we did. And like,
that's awesome.
you just, you appreciate when, and it's happened before. It's not, the last time this happened was, honestly, and and this will be one of those things that your listeners will go like, that Liefeld, damn him. He makes good points. Richard Donners